further questions? Yes, Anne.
Probably not comment or anything.
That's anything's welcome.
Thank you, as you've got time. Thanks everyone for a really good, I'm learning so much. I'd just like to know that we are going to get copies of these slides so that we can study these things, because we can't take notes on all the good. Vera, you just presented such a simple, easy to understand schematic for the process, and people like me need that. I need sort of the, I'll just get you to audio record and even another dummies guideline to understanding these engineering processes. But Michael, I was going to ask about all the different options that you sort of want to highlight around urban utilities, all the opportunities. I'm also really keen to sort of think about blue sky, what are the different possibilities are, so that I can include those sort of possibilities in the modelling too. You know, so it just emphasises in the Brisbane hub that the more we have these platforms to share our ideas and aspirations, we don't think, oh, 2 years time, oh gee, I wish I'd looked at that. So no, thank you everybody, it was really good.
Matthew, do you want to expand on the broad interests a bit, or?
Yeah, what type of things do you want to water with it? What's blue sky? What?
Yeah, I mean that's a fairly broad question. Look, internally we're having, you know, a lot of the discussion is focused on like what is our role. We can conceive of a number of different, say, business models about how you might, you know, stand up a different parts of the value chain. Some of which are already sort of in place. Other parts will need a lot more work than others. And so we're thinking about it from the perspective of, from the utilities role, what level of investment, you know, I guess, what are the different options and what does that mean for how we invest? So we might simply be a supporter, and we might say, yes, we endorse in principle urine separation and diversion. Go for your life and do that in an unrestricted way. Another way might be, well, we're investing in nutrient treatment at our treatment plants. If urine diversion and nutrient, you know, if there was a business that set itself up and was able to move really quickly, that potentially might undermine the efficiency of prudency and efficiency of that investment. So that might speak to maybe more of a regulatory role, or and we say, do it in these areas, do it in these areas. Another way of looking at it is if we know that there are good benefits, and I think there's really strong evidence, even in the limited amount of research that is done, even just logically, you can see that there might be really good benefits for us. We might even want to incentivize that, and you know, incentivizations can take a number of different forms. You know, paying for performance, you know, paying you know, infrastructure offsets and all that sort of thing. The challenge there is you need to permanently sort of load shift that urine off the system, and we would need to have some sort of confidence around that in order to sort of bank the savings and actually justify deferral and upgrades. A lot of this is in my head, and some other limited discussions around the business, and just using my imagination to think about possible scenarios. So none of this is policy or anything like that, or you know, drawing the line in the sand, we're going to do it this way. So on the other hand, you might think of so maybe a more novel approach is, you know, think of the Portaloo sector, as we sort of saw there. They've sort of got a value chain already set up. It might only be a small switch to, you know, stop using chemicals in your toilets, and you know, instead of paying sort of trade waste charges to the utility, maybe they could make a saleable product instead, for example. So, you know, I think that business model, all that discussion to me is really interesting. Can conceive a number of different ways of doing that. You know, is it something that, you know, you see some utilities spinning off little entities to go and work on these sort of initiatives. There's a technology company, so there's technological opportunities there around advanced manufacturing, as I mentioned. There's a servicing component of taking nutrients away from buildings, and then there's a value-adding component as well. So there's, all of these sort of questions are basically up for grabs. It's basically a blank slate, but if you look closely, I think you can sort of see how these, some of these things, if there was an entrepreneurial portal company, maybe that's something they could do. But yeah, definitely the economics and understanding how those per Syed's diagram. Basically, we've got two streams. We've got a conventional linear system, and we understand that system really, really, really well. The economics and the cost-benefit analysis will be, I think, a key part of helping to understand what our role is. Are we supporting it as something that we want to invest in? Are we just being a regulator? Are we incentivizing it? All those questions are really up for grabs. So all the work that's happening here really helps to inform us and what our next moves might be. As I mentioned in my presentation, we have a seat at the table in terms of influencing and shaping other sort of authorizing institutions in the local area. We're well connected with the likes of DES, and we have the relationships with Queensland Health and others, and now we have connections with DEPW through this work. So we're sort of, as we're going through this project, we're also testing and learning these things together and building those relationships that we're going to need down the track. So does that
we can have a big ideas war where we sort of put up all sorts of blue sky thinking, and then if one of us says, that's never going to fly, and say that we can make it a shared safe space to give each other feedback and ideas, and it would be nice. We just have to come up with the platform to do that, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for that further explanation. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. I'm really interested in the NiCE moon concept and what Sean and Lee presented. I saw in your presentation you mentioned you're going to test some optimized aeration to control the membrane fouling, and just also like Stefano was talking about ROFA, the fouling control. I wonder, are you going to look at that? Because previously at UQ we did some free nitrous acid testing as a biocidal agent to help with coping with the fouling. I guess likely free ammonia will do the same. Maybe that's something, I'm not sure whether you'll be looking at that, but I think that's probably something that will be interesting in addition to aeration control.
I can pick, having done a bit of research on the anti-fouling properties of ammonia, that the concentration of free ammonia you need is well above the one you have in urine. So you need to concentrate it. That's why it works for RO, because in the concentrated side of the membrane, you reach those critical concentrations. But in the MBR, you're still working on the concentrations that you have in the urine. It's not quite enough.
Can you add base?
It's just not, even if 100% was in the free ammonia form, it wouldn't be enough.
That's very high.
Yeah, you need to go up around 6-7 grams per liter.
The critical concentration that can inhibit the bacterial growth is around 4 to 5 grams per ammonia.
Of free ammonia.
Of free ammonia, yeah.
That's super high.
Yeah.
Sean, did you also want to respond?
Regarding our MBR, so in fact our HRT is very high, so we have more problem of the AOB, NOB reaction rather than membrane fouling, because our flux is less than 5 LMH, which means very much lower than our critical flux of the membrane behavior. So that even though we have our operate downstairs in our basement, So for last 3 years, we never ever had any membrane fouling issue. So that's what we have, one of the advantage of MBI. It's not like a typical wastewater membrane bioreactor. This is more about focused on nitrification rather than fouling. So we don't have any membrane fouling issue for the operation. Aeration is because of the AOV, NOV bacteria, not for fouling control. So we have no fouling issue at this moment.
Thank you.
What about the MD?
MD is a different issue. MD is more of a wetting problem rather than fouling is, of course, you concentrate more and we have fouling is there, but it can recover easily fouling after you just flush the water. However, the membrane distillation is still wetting issue. So when you have a wetting, so you cannot make a good concentrate your urine. So commercial opportunity is a little bit less likely happen. Just for the research purpose, yes, you can do, but the commercialization, we don't really consider MD will be our targeted commercial opportunities.
And following comments, not long ago I was talking to a friend. Just a comment, I think maybe of everybody's interest in this research area. Not long ago I was in contact with a friend in China. He sent a photo to me. He went to a toilet in China and there's a screen and you can scan the QR code if you pay like 10 yuan or 20 yuan, that's like $4 or $5. And after you pee, it tells some of like your health conditions, etc. like diabetes, likeliness, etc. I'm not sure if that can be incorporated in the NiCE rule sort of thing. That's like commercialization model. I think you probably can get some revenue out of it.
I think that's the ISF is working on it, right? Like the urine, depending on your colority, depending on your salinity, also depending on some protein, so they can detect some of the dehydrated condition. With you have a high salinity, you discharge because your kidney is not working properly, so that you have very high saltage reaching out to your body system. So there are many ways of detecting the maybe cancer cell protein. They have some sensor. So ISA people, I know that Simon is working on this area of the toilet, and then the health check the connection. That could be the ideal we can connect. That's initially it was on our table, but still technology is not available. So we haven't really considered at this moment, but in the future, yes, you're right. So you can see the general your health check can be done based on your urine. So it can be initial stage we can consider. But we like to give you have a QR code in our urine screen. That you donate the urine, and then we can give like a voucher. So you can keep the 10 urine, you can give 1 coffee, cup of coffee. So that's it's a consideration rather than like a health checkup. They get the money from our users. We want to give more rather than take it.
It's a bit of a circular economy, and that's
Right.
Drinking coffee, and anyway. Yes.
So one last, on this, we got ethics approval to actually use the data for further purposes. So in the future, we can, do epidemiology / public health / lifestyle studies based on what we measure in the urine, which all could be of interest.
Yes.
Stefano, you mentioned in your presentation there's a comms piece around the project up in Brisbane. Just want to understand a little bit better what the communication strategy is. Is it sort of looking at changing people's minds, perception of urine being used as a fertilizer, or is it more to do with just the resource capture? Is there a communication strategy, and what's the process?
We haven't really developed it yet. So what I know is that they don't want to let the universities run it. So City Council wants to have a a big role there, interfacing with the public. So I think they're interested in how people perceive the use of these toilets primarily, because if they're going to implement it in multiple sites, the user experience is important. Just pure educational material would be included as well, and then the perception of the use of fertilizer by the end user community. But this is on the design phase, and it will be co-designed with City Council, urban utilities, city parklands, and the universities.
Is there a further question? No question. Well, I won't hold people away from lunch. I don't want to be the chair that does that. So you can ask more questions, obviously, of our presenters during lunch. And so we've about 4 extra minutes for lunch now. And I'd just like to give a round of applause for our presenters. I heard lunch arriving quite a few times, and several of our presenters were fabulous. They went straight through it and actually didn't stop. So congratulations on that as well. So if everyone wanted to start with lunch, it's in the far corner.